is necessary based on what our own state's expectations are to meet students' needs. There you go. Social workers, counselors, additional support personnel. Basically, this is talking about folks that are not in the classroom, but who are integral to the functioning of a school and really provide extensive support to that 25% of kids that I was referencing a little while ago, who just are having a really, really, really hard time. Okay? All right, we're getting to the home stretch here. We can advance one. So the last part of the Invest platform that I want to talk about goes directly to the human resources of the people who are most important in our schools, and that is our teachers. I listed for you on this slide right here 4 or 5 of hundreds of empirical studies that tell us the impact that a quality teacher has in the life of the students. But what I would challenge you to think about is that, right, you can write a study that says kind of anything you want it to say. But we've all had experiences as children or with our children when they've had an educator who has changed their life for the better. And that's not something you can put a price tag on. It's not something that you can write about in a study. It truly is life-changing. So I ask you to think about that and what it is that our state might need to do to make teaching a profession that people want to do again. Let me highlight a little bit of tension here. And again, this is research that's been done within the last few years. So educators, for what we ask them to do, we just don't pay them a lot. Not only that, but the gap between teachers' salaries and that of other similarly educated professionals has widened in the last 2 decades. 17% gap now compared to just about a 2% gap in 1994. And the other thing that we see, and this is really a personal one for me, is especially post-COVID, like as educators, I will just say this, we felt like heroes, especially locally, when we came back and we opened up our local schools when nobody else was doing that. Oh my gosh, people were so thankful for that. And that, most people become educators for reasons like that, they want to be appreciated. Nobody expects to get rich. But the public discourse and things that people are criticizing educators for in the national narrative, boy, it takes its toll. And when you're just showing up every day trying to do your best and meet the needs of 30 kids in a classroom, and then you get a parent who screams at you about what you did wrong, or how dare you say this, or whatever it is, nobody should be shocked about why we have a problem with the teacher pipeline when you consider the pay and you consider those other things that people are doing. So the last part of Invest that I'd like to share with you is this idea of what does it take to compensate our workforce in a way that will cause people to want to be educators. That's the last part of this here. I want to again just reiterate that these figures, and actually I guess I haven't said this yet, so let me back up for just a second. These figures come from 2 bodies of legislatively appointed professionals. The first is an accounting firm called Augenblick Palatian Associates. We call them APA, that's their acronym. They did an extensive study in 2008 and then another one in 2016. And what they did was they looked at what are Nevada's standards and what are the resources that it would take to actually meet those standards. So these are people hired by our own state legislature. Then in 2018, the state legislature appointed a commission on school funding. And that commission on school funding did all of that same work and then came back with these figures that we as superintendents have said, okay, we're not going to reinvent the wheel. We're going to take the work that's been done by these other professionals who have looked at all of these standards, and that's what our recommendation to the legislature is going to be. You, legislature, hired these people So we know a lot about that, right? Sometimes we have bodies that are appointed to do something, they come back with a recommendation, and then that recommendation is ignored. So we're trying to say, this was your idea, let's do something about it. Now, those can be scary numbers, but I want to put this in perspective as I kind of round the home stretch. This is a quote on this page right here from Governor Grant Sawyer back in 1963. Some of you in this room, a few of you in this room, were Nevada residents in 1963. He said, Nevada ranks 13th in the nation in average teacher salaries. We're 5th in the Western US. We rank 15th in the nation in pupil-teacher ratio. We are 8th in the nation for median number of school years completed by persons aged 25 or older. We reportedly have the highest literacy rate in the nation. We're 4th in the nation on the basis of money spent per pupil. 1963. In your handouts, I superimposed where we're at now as a state with those things.
Wow.
And you can see that it's just a tad different. And this is where I'll put things in context, because again, I know as stewards of the public tax dollars and such, that it can be scary to talk about, really big numbers. This is Nevada's comparison nationally with how we fund education. That dotted line is the national average. You can see that Nevada, according to this study, is down there at about 45th or 46th, at approximately $4,300, $4,400 less per pupil than what the national average is. This next chart is from a different source. This is from the National Center on Education Law. And it's a little bit newer, but it shows similar types of data. Over to on the right side of that is it's the exact same information you just looked at as far as where the national average is and how far below that national average Nevada is. So you've already seen that, but on the left, that graph with all the crazy lines going on it shows you the trend from 2018 to 2021 and what different states have done as they've invested in education or not over the course of that 3 years. So according to this source, Nevada has actually lost ground compared to other states, going from 44th ranked to 47th ranked. Whereas you can see states like Illinois, and there are a few others who have really said, okay, we've got to do something about this, and that trend has gone in the other direction. Just one last thing that I want to show you here, because again, I want to try to be explicit in, while the narrative around public education in Nevada, it can be very negative, there's actually a lot to celebrate, and this is from, yet again, another data source. So this is the slide down here. And the thought cloud isn't up on the screen there, and it interferes. Oh, yeah, can you go back? Will it go back? Okay, perfect, thanks, Michael. So 2018, you can see, so I'm looking over at the right-hand side of the screen. 2018, Nevada rank overall, 51, chance for success, 50, finance, 50, K-12 achievement, 40. That was in 2018. If you go over to the left, you can see 2021. There's one of those things that's not like the other in the 2021 column, and that's the K-12 achievement. And I just, of course you're going to expect me to say this, but I hope you know that I am the champion of what we do here locally. We are absolutely working on things. We got a lot of improvement we have done and need to do, but we recognize that. But I want to celebrate the fact that statewide, while finance stayed at last, achievement actually rose a lot. And so while you could say, well, good, keep doing more with less, what we're going to face is there are not going to be people to do that job. That's how critical it is. One of the things that I cut out of this presentation due to time is just the level of concern that my colleagues have with regard to the workforce. K-12 education in Nevada is going to collapse if we don't address the teacher pipeline. And the teacher pipeline is addressed by pay, number one, and number two, with some of those things that I mentioned before. Can you imagine being in a job where your effectiveness is measured by one test that students take at the beginning or at the end of the year? And a lot of our students, and a lot of students in general, look at that test and they're like, I'm not going to try it. What does this mean to me? And so, but as a teacher, you're judged for that. As a school, you're judged for that. If those things don't change, it's going to be a rough go. Just to conclude on this issue, and then I'll talk for only a brief second about school construction. What we as superintendents are advocating for, and this is really, go back to that last one. This is really puts it into perspective. And it's the idea that we are not asking for the moon. I'm looking at this slide right here. Most of you know that I still teach the high school choir every day, which I will be heading to momentarily. When we get ready to perform, I have never once said to my choir, let's sing tonight and let's be average. Like that's not something that I shoot for with my choir. That is all we're shooting for as the education establishment statewide is. Can we look for average? Can we look for the national average? Can we look for just adequate? And imagine what work could be done if the funds were there to support some of those needs that I outlined. Now, a lot of you probably listened to Governor Lombardo's speech or State of the State the other night, where he is taking money and infusing that into education. That is a great start, and we are so appreciative of that. What we're continuing to work with him and the legislators on is that this is, and that resets the base. So that's, again, it's a real positive step. But this is a systemic issue with regard to revenue and how that revenue is put into the state education budget. And so while Governor Lombardo's proposal is amazing in progress, it does not address the full issue because it's a bigger issue than that. And even with, he talked about basically $2,000 additional per kid through the biennium. I'm not going to say no to that. That is huge progress, but you can see that that's still less than half of what it would take just to get us to average. Okay. So with that, the other part of the resolution that I am here to ask you to adopt and to consider is that relates to school funding. Due to time, I'm not going to show this video, but I will make sure that this presentation is provided to Mr. Weeble and to all of you.
If you want to come back and speak to that and
I'd
have
love
the
to.
video, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you for that invitation, I will. The only thing I'll say about school construction, which Commissioner Howe and I were just talking about, we do have two facilities in our district which have phases that were constructed prior to World War I.
Right.
And when we look at ADA access, and especially think about the David E. Norman campus, as a superintendent, from a school safety perspective, that campus gives me nightmares. And Mr. Beecher was our former attorney. I know that he felt the same way about that, but there's buildings all over the place. There's no way to control who comes on that campus and who leaves. It's a disaster waiting to happen. And when you think about Uvalde and we just saw another shooting on a campus in Virginia. It's not good. And so the first part of the resolution, and which I've spent my time with you on today, is just the idea of school funding in general. But as a local entity, we will never have the funds to bond ourselves for another new school. That is not even a possibility. even once the White Pine High School obligations are paid off, it's just not a possibility with construction costs. So what we're doing is we're working with our legislative delegation and other state officers to find alternative methods to generate funds to build a new campus. And as I think about the work that you've done with the park that's up near the future park that's up near the White Pine High School campus, which is where our tentative location would be as well. And I think about what an amazing addition to this community it would be to have a state-of-the-art school there, as well as that, the legacy grounds, the White Pine High School campus and all that stuff. I mean, it'd be pretty incredible. So that is my presentation. I know I went a little bit over, so I didn't help you get back on schedule. I apologize for that. But I do appreciate your time, and if there are any questions that I can answer for you, and I just would encourage you to support us with this resolution. We're not asking for any support directly from you as a county. This is through our state legislature and the executive budget that Governor Lombardo laid out the other day. So.
I think, and I'm going to be brief as well, I think that getting a letter of support for construction, school construction at this time is important because the legislature's just starting.
Yeah.
It's only 120 days long, and bills go through there, they take time, hours and hours and hours. But it's important for White Pine County Commission to join forces with the school district. I've already talked to Senator Govashia and made sure that what we put out as far as funding for anything goes would not be in conflict with the school district. So we need to really stay focused on, we can wait till next year to get X amount of whatever project done, as long as we can start the progress to get this school built, because I went to that school and it's 1913, and it is not, if you tried to remodel that school, you could build a new one a lot quicker, a lot easier.
Absolutely.
And so I think the county commission, this commission, should draft a letter, however you want it to be said, or whatever our DA can draft for us as a commission in support of a new facility that's ADA and all up to date, whatever those terms are. And I do know that, face it, each year you waste, you're adding another 10–12% to the total cost. And what was gonna be 50 million 2 years ago is now gonna be 60–65 million. So the sooner we get some support letter and help the school district to move forward to get through this legislature, the 23 legislature, is important for the school district and for this county and our citizens, our children. So let's try to draft a letter up through DA in strong support of White Pine's quest.
What's before you today is this resolution,
Okay.
and it's not on for a letter, but we can approve this resolution. And if Adam needs anything else, certainly, he has my number.
I do.
Then that's good. I'll make a motion to support that.
The resolution,
Resolution number
sorry,
2023-07.
thank you.
Support the school.
And Janet, that was your second of the resolution? All right. Any further discussion? We'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, commissioners. So appreciated, and I'm off to go sing with 45 kids. So see you next time.
Enjoy. Thank you. Item E.
This has been a Georgetown production. George Chachis reporting.